What's up? It's Matt. We're back with another restaurant expert roundup. This week, we're ending the week with a guy that's not only an owner and operator and founder of a pizza restaurant and brand, but also the author of this book. Nick, what's going on?
Not much. It's Friday, getting ready for the weekend, like a typical restaurateur.
Yep.
Juggling a few, spinning some plates, all that stuff.
So I guess introduce yourself, tell us about this book you wrote, and then we're going to dig into a couple questions.
I'm Nick Sarillo, the founder and president of Nick's Pizza and Pub. I have two restaurants in the suburbs of Chicago, just outside the city. Two pretty big size restaurants. They're about 9,000 square feet, 350 seats. Wow. Been around for 25 years, almost 26 years, actually. And I wrote a book, which you have there, A Slice of the Pie, but the subtitle is actually the title I wanted, How to Build a Big Little Business, because that speaks, appropriately to what the book is really about and the way I view the team and how to have a really intentional culture in a restaurant business.
I like that term, intentional culture. And something that hit me, we have a lot of similarities in this book, is we had a boat dealership that we expanded way too quickly with the bank's money in 2005 to 2008. And the summer of 2008, same thing that happened when you were typing the email, that we were sitting there and I had already went back into marketing. We were getting out of the business anyways, but we thought we'd be able to sell things, wind it down. And July of 2007, we did $1.4 million in sales. In July of 2008, we did $48,000 in sales. And it was a stressful summer, to say the least. I know you know what that's like from a restaurant standpoint then and this year.
Yeah, so, that's tough. Yeah.
So I'll dig into it because I know you got to run the restaurant. You're back there in dry storage. I'm sure that door, somebody's got to pound on it pretty soon, needing something. The pop machine is going to break or something.
It's like the only room that we actually have a door on. Everything else is open and everybody else. So
probably 90% of the people I interview that are in the restaurant business, when they're doing these interviews, it's in dry storage because the same thing. Everything else is either a freezer or it's a room with no door and it's just yelling and screaming and music and dishes.
Yep, very true. For sure. Well, I'm grateful to be here, Matt, and thank you for the opportunity to share with other business owners, restaurateurs about what I've learned and what anything I could add, any kind of value I could add to the audience.
Yeah. So I went through the book and there were some things that stuck out to me. It's a great book, by the way. If you haven't gotten it, you get on there. It's on Amazon. There's a link in the comment. I'll put one later on again. But some things that stuck out to me I wanted to ask you about. I think that one thing I liked a lot, and this happened to us 2 weeks ago. We have a marketing firm. We work with restaurants all over the country. We have, probably 150 plus pizza restaurants. But we had a restaurant about 2 weeks ago that communicated to my team in a terrible way. Dropped the F-bomb on them, said something stupid, and I just commented, hey, you know what? You might be right, you might be wrong on what happened, but we're not going to have you as a client anymore because I respect my team a lot more than to have them have to deal with that crap. But I like what you've got on here, Nick's values on page 39. Obviously, the first one to me, treat everyone with dignity and respect. How did you come up with these? This isn't something that came overnight. What were some of the things that went into this from your standpoint of putting these in place and then living by them? Because sometimes in business, you got the almighty dollar and you got values, and there's times where those intersect that you got to make a decision if you do the right thing or you do what maybe fixes it short term.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Matt. And you're right. I wasn't actually smart enough to come up with that structure myself, for sure. I'm a guy who grew up in the city and figured things out as I went, building my own business. But, I did have, I had the values inside me, obviously, right? Like a lot of entrepreneurs, I believed in taking care of my people. I did the right thing. But they were more or less, the way, my grandma taught me these things, right? Really my parents, and really important. But what I realized when I got my restaurant up and running, and all of a sudden I had first it was 30 people, then it's 50 employees, then it's 60, it's like, wow, we're doing well. I'm starting to lead now more than just manage tasks. I'm starting to lead the company. It's like I really wanted to create a place, now that we're going to survive, right? That's the first thing, right? It's like now that we're going to survive, I want to create a place that people enjoy working at, a place where people walk out the door at the end of the day after a day's work and are like, that wasn't so bad. I want to come back, So I started to look for a way to do that. And I've always felt it important to do what we love to do. That work is a meaningful part, could be a meaningful part of our life, right? Spend so much time at work, and so I had an intuition about this stuff, right? Started reading people like Howard Schultz's first book, and way back, just some old books, from Whole Foods and what's his name. So I went and found this consultant. I was looking for some consultants to help me with what I was thinking and feeling, and I found this guy, Rudy Mick, and he was the one who said, hey, what you have in your gut is awesome. Let's get it out. And we're going to get that intuition out of inside Nick, right? To create a structure so the whole team knows what's in Nick's gut, but also has in their gut too.
Yep.
Right? We're gonna call that our why, our purpose. This is before Simon Sinek, right? This is 2002.
Yeah.
Rudy Mick was the guy. So the process, I think, is really important, for sure, man. That's why I love your question, right? The process was me, and we had a slice team of our company. We had a dishwasher, a manager, a server, a bartender, a busboy, a cook. We had a real slice team of the company. So we got everybody's voice in the room, went off site for 2 days. And I've been open for 7 years at this point, right? And we talked about why are we here? What's going on? What brings us together? What's our personal passion? How is our personal passion attached to our purpose? And so from that process, we created our collective purpose for the organization. And then we went back a couple of weeks later and did that same process with the same people for our values.
Okay.
Right? So that's I think why I say that's an important step in the process is because it wasn't just me in the marketing department, right? Which I see sometimes, right? I call it values washing. It's kind of like greenwashing when people want to be green, right? It's authentic. We're getting the people who have been there. We've been working together, and it's not just my voice. And I think that's an important piece.
No, I agree. I completely agree. And if you're watching on the internet, on the World Wide Web, there they are. And it's important because a couple things you said there that struck a chord with me is, number one, what you explained to me was what we went through in our boat dealership was a SWOT analysis. We had a guy come in, Mike Instrument. We went to a casino because my dad and brother like to gamble. And early on, it was just us three. So we went there, and it was wild because at the end of the 2 days, I remember thinking like, man, Mike is really smart. And afterwards, he's like, Matt, nothing on the board came from me. It came from you guys. I just pulled it out of you. And then as we grew our company every year, it went from the three of us to 5 to 10, 10 to 20. And the last year we had it every year. The last year we had like 35 people there. And it was everybody basically trying to relay, hey, what do we stand for? And what's the proper way to do business? Because I've got a saying that's in our Vivid Vision. I don't know if you've heard that or not. There's a book called Vivid Vision. I don't know who wrote, Cameron Harrell from 1-800-GOT-JUNK. And I've got it printed back there because we just redid it. But in my Vivid Vision, one of the things I have on the title in our, I guess you think, a mission statement is that I want our company to make decisions that are the right decisions, not because of money. Because I think a lot of times businesses get caught up in that. Like in 2008 when the economy was crashing and our company was crashing, we were making decisions based on money and surviving, not what was right. And that leads you down a bad path. And I think if you have a statement like this that your team puts together, it allows everybody to be on the same page and consistently make the right decisions that, at the end of the day, reflect what your brand is to customers.
Yeah, it can. I love where you're going. That term of, what you're talking about, what you start to do is, okay, make decisions based on what's right, but how do we have a shared understanding of, so to speak, right, and so we actually, one thing, if you've noticed about the specific language in our values, is how, so that specific language, it's a nuance. So many companies miss this nuance, especially like these big corporations.
Yep.
It's a little nuance that has a huge impact on living the values for the team.
Is it the word we?
Yes. It's the word, it's a collective I statement, and also the tense. It's a present tense.
Yep.
Right? So that first value, right, as an example, Matt, I've seen a lot of going to companies. You could look up companies and they'll say their values are respect. They'll have that word, or maybe they'll have the two words, dignity and respect. That's nice. But back to your point, how are we going to make decisions with dignity and respect? Well, when someone new comes on the company and they say, yeah, our values, dignity and respect, but it's just up here in their head, right? They're like somebody, sometimes, dignity and respect. When we choose to put those active words in there, right? We treat. Notice all the values. We treat. We provide, right? They're actionable, right? Now the values go from nouns to verbs.
Verbs, yeah.
And the really cool part, Matt, is I've seen this. Like, we have an orientation, a new team member, and we ask them to say the values, right? Now, instead of saying dignity and respect, and it stays up in their intellect, right? They say, we treat everybody with dignity and respect. I often see them take a breath, right? Because that goes from that intellectual exercise to right in the gut. It's like, oh, we are doing this, right? That key word. And now, guess what? There is no wiggle room around striving to do it someday, or, we're going to do it tomorrow. It's like right now, every moment, right? Say thank you, say please. All that stuff is dignity and respect every moment, right? It's really cool. It becomes an action standard.
No, I love it. And I'm gonna skip to my third question, because I think it relates more to this than the second one does. I'll come back to that. But my third question I had was on chapter 3 about letting people be themselves. I see this, and this is a weird relation to it, but I'm a sports fan. And I always crack up how a guy that can be an All-American NFL quarterback one year, the next year is a complete flop under a new coach, because the coach forces that quarterback into his system. You're doing what I do. It's like Colin Kaepernick, outside of all the controversy, he had a great season, his second to last season. And then Harbaugh leaves and he flops. And Kaepernick didn't change. The coach came in, the new regime came in and wouldn't let him be himself and made him fit into a mold that wasn't his style of play. Talk about letting your employees, your team, be themselves from chapter 3.
Yeah, I love this point as well, because I'm blessed that we have, I would say, 80% of our team is under the age of 25, maybe 70% of our team of 180 team members or so, right? So we have a pretty young. I get to work with 16, 17-year-olds all the time, right? Yep. Amazing, I'm older, right? So my generation of they're like, oh yeah, that's generation, they suck, or I'm like, I don't think so. Yeah. They're just different, right? And what is different is, I've noticed they just don't believe, they don't have a lot of trust and authority these days. Why should they? I mean, look at the examples, right? Whether you want to get political or religious or whatever, right? Look at all the examples, right? Who do I trust? Even school teachers, I don't even know if they could trust them, right? Yeah. So they want to know, okay, and forget rules, right? We'd much rather have values than rules.
Yep.
Much more effective with today's generation. Give them that framework, and then give them a framework around, if you have an issue, if you have a problem, or if you have a great marketing idea. This is awesome for the marketing team, right? If you have a great marketing idea, the filter isn't marketing idea to go to Matt for solution. The filter is marketing idea. How do the purpose and values fit with this idea? solution, right? If it's just one value, right? Go back to the drawing board, do some rework. When all the values start to fit and this makes sense, purpose and values, you got a great solution, right? So again, now the team gets autonomy around when they have an issue or a problem. They come to a boss, a manager, me. I'm like, let's walk over to the values. How are you going to solve this? You have an issue, you have a problem. Tell me, and we start to get them to use the values. And then before you know it, they're not coming to us anymore as the managers, right? They're doing this on their own.
Okay.
So we tie that tool along with the art and science of service. So the science is like the non-negotiables of our recipe or how we answer the phone, right? Your name, the restaurant name, a welcome and an action step. And by the way, the art side is do it in your own way. Doesn't matter which one you say first, right? Have your own style to that, right? So that example, but for serving, for making a pizza, right? We have science steps that this is what must be done, right? Non-negotiables. Here's the art. Now add your own individuality to that and be your own self. Be diverse. The restaurant business, we got so much diversity. Awesome. Look across our team, you'd see all kinds, right? That actually creates a better organization, in my perspective, right? We got much more innovation and ideas of different thought ideas. So it's really cool. Does that speak to what you're?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of times companies have these, like you're saying, they've got these rules. Hey, you got to answer the phone this way, this way, this way. Well, there's ways to embellish that and make it your own. I fly every couple of weeks, and I have the past couple of years, and I bet this past year I've been on 100 planes. And 2 trips ago, flying down to Tampa 2 weeks ago. I guess it might have been last week. I don't know. The days get blurry. I get on the plane, and it's the same thing. Mask, how we're going to show you how to put the oxygen mask on if the plane crashes, how all this stuff happens. And next thing I know, I get on there, and this guy is on the microphone doing what he's supposed to do, but with a flair. And he's got some comedy in there. He put the whole plane was laughing. It's the first time I've listened to the entire thing ever. And I looked at that, and I'm like, it's a shame because there's probably some corporate buffoon that's going to eventually see a video of that on Instagram and go, oh my gosh, that's not on page 73 of the manual. You got to deliver it this way. And it's like, you know what? That's the first time I've paid attention to the instructions on what to happen ever. And this guy made it. He owned it. The plane was laughing. People were smiling and people enjoyed it. And I think that's what I took from you and reading that was, let people take the scientific part of it, but then also make it their own and put personality into it. And you said something also that was kind of funny that another guest of mine said a couple of weeks ago, or I guess a couple months ago, a guy named TJ Shear, owns a Witch out in Dallas and has a couple other brands. And he said, a lot of people say this generation. He said, I've got employees. He gave me an example. He's talking about the marching band. He said, I look at the marching band at our local high school and it's 300 kids. Well, every year that marching band director loses 25% of his team. So the next year, the next batch come in. The guy is able to direct 300 16 to 18-year-olds to march in these crazy things that look perfect. If he can get them to do it, you can get them to do it. It just comes down to leadership and belief in why they're doing it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, what we do, and I think what's an opportunity, we have really low turnover, less than 25% turnover. And I think it's because, we give like a framework for how to solve problems, how to open and close a restaurant. We have these operational cards. Nobody's going to look over you. We right off the bat in orientation, we say, you're on your own. We trust that you're adults. We're not going to treat you like kindergartners. We're not going to babysit you. Here's the framework. Even if you need a raise, we have a 101, a 201, a 301, 401 card on the wall of what you could get certified in. You sign up. for that class. You get trained on it. You after so much, you get your own raise. It's all meritocracy versus permission. I need my boss to like me. That framework I think is, again the framework. I mean, even business models nowadays. What you just said, right? The old school business model of opening a business. It didn't used to have anything really about purpose and values in a business model, or it was all about here's how you make money. I think this is a way to organize and bring people together and operate in the 21st century.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I think it's all too often overlooked. I think that and I can't speak for 40 or 50 years ago, but I can only look at what history tells us. And it just seems like there's too many big businesses that think you can force something down everybody's throat and that you're running a company like this, have fun. I mean, my company, we were 2 people 6-7 years ago. Now we're like 35 or 36 people. Depends on what day of the week
awesome.
it is. And I tell them all, you know what, figure it out. Like, I trust your decision. You were brought on board for a skill that you have, and let's see what you can do with that skill. And you know what, you're going to fail. And if you just learn from what you failed from, it's not a big deal. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like we're building rockets to go to the moon. I mean, we're helping restaurants find customers. Occasionally we do it awesome. Occasionally we screw up. Let's just do it awesome more times than we screw up.
Yeah, exactly.
So the last part is a little different. That's why I moved it to the end, is page 169, the huddle structure, because I think that this is a big missing element to any small businesses is knowing your numbers, is knowing where you're at today, where you're going to be next month, where you want to be in 6 months, a year. A lot of times you turn around like a profit and loss statement. I don't know if you ever read the book Profit First or not, but Profit First is an awesome book. And they always talk about, like, when we had our boat dealership, at our peak, we were doing $15 million a year. And I was like 28 years old, running a company with 45 employees, $15 million in sales. I had no clue what the hell I was doing. And I remember every year I'd look at it and go, well, the profit and loss says we have this. Where is it? And I never could comprehend it in my 20s. Like, where was that money? Now I understand, obviously. But the problem was I wasn't looking at it enough. And I was looking at the lagging indicators. I was looking at what happened 3 months ago versus what's happening tomorrow to make sure that we're doing correct. Talk about the huddle structure that you guys use that's in book on page 169.
Yeah, yep. So another thing we do that wasn't my idea, there's a great book called The Great Game of Business by Jack Stack. I think he's got a newer one out too. But it's a process for open books that involves the team in sharing our numbers, right? Really, I adapted from that book, and I adapted what Zingerman's does. They're friends too. I don't know if you've ever heard of Zingerman's in Ann Arbor. They do this really well. They train it really well as well to other companies. So the thing is, again, what's going to be more effective, in my perspective, to actually bring the team together and let's share our numbers and work together on how we create profit and how profits is. I mean, it's a life source of our business, but it's not a value. It's a result of our values. It's a result of doing all the right things, right? It is something that we need for sure. So we actually have a whiteboard that we're forecasting numbers on. And in restaurant business, anticipation, right, is so important in restaurants.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's the difference. What I love what you said about lagging indicators. The P&L is okay, but it's a lagging indicator.
Yeah.
By putting our numbers up on a whiteboard, we'll start with our budget numbers, what we thought we were going to do for the year, but we're also forecasting every week, right? Our general manager forecasts what he thinks or she thinks for the week. We put that on that whiteboard, and then we have our key prime costs, right? What we're forecasting, what our labor is going to be, what our food costs going to be, what our beverage costs going to be, maybe a couple other lines. And the team actually volunteers and takes those line items, and they help forecast. Then for the week, we do this every week, 4 o'clock on a Friday. We bring that whiteboard up in the heart of house, and we huddle around it. and we talk about here's the forecast, the number I'm forecasting, why I'm forecasting it, and what I'm going to do to deliver on that number this week. And it's a collaboration between the team. They write it down on the board, then the next week we put the results we got on that previous week, right? We do that. It's a half-hour process. We take 30 minutes. I know that sounds crazy, but we do it like 3:30 before we get busy in between shifts, and we pay people to come in. If they're working the shift, they'll come in a half hour early. That's okay. I think it's a good investment because, again, it creates accountability for the whole team. Instead of most owners are like, I'm afraid for them to know it. They're going to think we make too much money. I found the opposite to happen. They were actually, let's do this, right? They're the ones that are coming up with ideas.
Yeah.
From saving napkins on a table to marketing ideas to handing out, I think I shared in the book about handing out flyers out in the park, to get the softball team in. All kinds. I got so many stories of things that the team do because they're involved in the numbers and they're involved in the success, And if you really want to add to it, you can actually add a little bit of profit sharing, and which I do. Is at the end of the period, at the end of the month, whatever it might be. Hey, you know what? We actually achieved this bucket of dollars, right? 5% of our profit, whatever it is. Put some money in a bucket and say, hey, we're achieving this. We're going to spread that out between the people who are involved.
So I love it, and I think a lot of times, and I won't say you and I specifically, but we as owners, we as business owners, we think that we see all, that we see everything. And I was talking to a restaurant owner, this was probably 2 years ago, and he was telling me a story in his restaurant that the way the manual from the franchise, he was a franchise restaurant, the corporate manual had, this is what you do for every table. And they had a basket they put on the tables, and they put this stack number of napkins, and they put this type of candy in there. There was this whole thing. And the servers came to him after a little bit of doing this and said, we did the math. This particular brand of candy that they put on the table, you're giving away about a couple $1,000s a month of this candy that we can't take it back. When we put it on their table, they either take it or we throw it away for health department reasons. 90% of the people don't take it. It's like, yeah, it was cool and trendy with the restaurant 50 years ago, but today's customers don't take it. And I'm a customer of this brand. We never took it. And I used to just sit there and go, don't put it on a table. Maybe offer it. Hey, do you want these items? And then the napkins, the same thing. You put a stack of napkins. I mean, if you give my son 40 napkins, he's going to use 40. If you give him 2, he'll use 2 and maybe ask for a third.
Or use a sleeve, right? One of the two.
Yeah, my son. I'll have to send you some pictures because you're exactly right. He does use a sleeve. And I know you got 3 kids, so you know what that's all about.
Yeah, I do.
But that to me was something that he had never really paid attention because he's not waiting tables. He's running the restaurant. He's looking at things. These servers are talking. They're going, hey, 9 out of 10 people aren't doing this. I went to a restaurant the other day and I said, can I have some salt? And the person gave me enough salt to kill a village. I'm like, what do you think? My driveway needs ice? Like, what's going on here? Like, I just need 1 pack. But by the time he gave it to me, it was on my table in my hands. And I'm like, I don't know why I need 35 packets of salt, but maybe if he understood. And like my son one time was making a comment, like, what's the big deal, Dad? I said, because if that guy gives everybody 1,000 customers a week, 35 packs of salt versus 1 for 2 years, that's a pretty good size of money.
It does add up. That's for sure. Totally adds up. Yeah. I mean, great example. I mean, any business, the team on the front lines, they know what's up. They know what's going on. They have the best ideas. They're in it day to day. It's a valuable resource. Why not join it? Have us all in this together.
Yep. Well, cool. I know you got to get running the restaurants Friday night, a slice of pie, get it on Amazon. I appreciate your time. Anything you want to close with? Any way we can support you besides when we're in the Elgin area, stopping by and having pizza? Anything we can do to help you out?
Yeah. Well, buying the book, buying a pizza, for sure. Those are good things. Yeah, Matt, honestly, let's work together to create positive places to work. That to me would be a sign of gratitude. Let's figure out our values and our purpose and create these meaningful places to work in our organizations so that service in restaurants is actually restoring the soul as it was intended way back in the 1500s when it began.
Yeah, I agree. We've got a brand that we created called America's Best Restaurants that we're relaunching this year. And the mission statement is to help consumers find a restaurant that makes them smile. Because at the end of the day, that's what a lot of people, whether you're having a bad day and you have a bite of some pizza at Nick's, it makes you smile. Whether you're having a good day, like me and my wife went dinner last night and shared some laughs and smiles, or our son was at swim practice. I think it's a place that people typically smile. So next time I am up in your neck of the woods, I'm going to make sure to come by there and smile and meet you. I also have an employee that lives in Naperville and one that goes to Wheaton College. So I'll have to come up there and powwow with them, and we'll come have a team meeting from my Chicagoland employees.
That'd be really fun. I'd love to see you in person and give you guys a behind-the-scenes tour of the charts and all the things we're talking about.
Cool. Well, hey, I appreciate it, and have a great weekend, and I hope you saw a lot of pizza this weekend and put a lot of smiles on people's faces.
All right. Thank you. Take care, man. Enjoy your weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.